Hi, everybody. Kyle Kramer, CEO at the Earth and Spirit Center, joined by a wonderful partner in crime, a longtime partner in crime, Karen Newton. Hey, Karen.
I
With your new fancy monitor and your new fancy in-monitor camera, how could this recording go badly?
well, it's a crime, so it's going to be really, really exciting.
Okay, so we are here to talk a little bit about you. For those who may not know you, though you have been a senior faculty member at the Earth and Spirit Center for quite a while, and to talk about an upcoming course you have this spring called Mindfulness for Real Life. So very excited about this course. This is a course that has a long and wonderful track record at the Earth and Spirit Center under various names and configurations. But for those who are coming new into the orbit, let's talk about you a bit first, Karen. So as I mentioned, you have been teaching at the Earth and Spirit Center for a number of years. Can you just say a word or two about your own background, both professionally and specifically with mindfulness and mindfulness teaching?
All right. Well, I'll be glad to. Yes, and like many folks, I have had a long and winding path to find a practice and the confidence to actually then teach it. And so I started in my late 20s looking for something that I've called meditation. And I thought I was pretty well, probably the nutsiest 29-year-old. Come to find out, I was really normal. But along that path, then on and off, I finally came to a tradition of from the Buddhist traditions of Vipassana. Some people call it insight, some people call it mindfulness meditations. But these ancient practices were taught and presented in such a way that I felt like, okay, this makes practice sense for me. I can have a community of practitioners here. And I had grown up in the church, so I had been taught a prayer tradition. And this was a welcome departure for me to actually have more of a contemplative, just show up whoever I am that day. And no pleading, begging, promising. This is,
And
this.
for those who may have worship commitments, I think I hear you saying that meditation and mindfulness, they are different from prayer, but they are not. I mean, those are not two antagonistic things. Those are complementary
No.
practices.
And one of the reasons that I really enjoy when people come to a class, which now I get to teach at Earth and Spirit Center, people often are concerned that this meditation and these set of practices might conflict with their prayer life. And then it can be reassuring that no, they're very compatible. In fact, many folks experience greater connectivity and benefit from their prayer tradition.
Yeah. So
So
you found these practices young, and you've got decades and decades under your belt on the cushion or in some sort of contemplative practice.
So I
What?
started teaching then in 2015.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago, I started teaching at University of Louisville. I was the director of health promotion and student health services. And I sure was not going to teach them my own personal practice. So I became certified to teach a curriculum that
Mhm.
was actually directed towards the emerging adult population, developed by a couple of psychiatrists down at Duke University. And then I got that integrated into the well-being and resilience model for the students at UL. And faculty staff wanted it, so it got picked up in employee well-being also. Then when I
So
retired, yeah,
I heard just in terms of professionally, I heard that you've integrated mindfulness kind of from a public health and well-being perspective. I know even prior to that, you had a dietetics career as well. So definitely you've been functioning in the, oh gosh, I don't want to use the wrong word because we talked about this before we started recording, not self-care, but well-being space, and mindfulness playing kind of a very important role there.
sure. And that's a good prompt just to include that my academic training is master's in public health,
Yeah.
in health promotion and community organization. And then I'm
Mhm.
also a registered dietitian nutritionist. So as we were developing the program model for U of L, these forms of contemplative practice that we call meditation were perfect because it's how we acquire the capacity to be stable, focused, connected, on purpose, all those things that um, are the learning tasks of emerging adults. and those of us who are still emerging on
Which is,
into
I
our
hope, and I
50s,
think all of us.
40s, 50s, 60s,
Yeah.
70s. So it is capacity building is the way that I present this when I'm teaching.
Well, let's talk about the course you have upcoming this spring. It's called Mindfulness for Real Life,
Mhm.
and I'll give dates and details at the end of the video. But I love that title, and as I mentioned earlier, we've had various titles for this course, and I'm so glad we've landed on this one because, to my mind, it implies that mindfulness is not this esoteric practice that requires incense and saffron robes and contorted body positions and fancy cushions and Tibetan retreat centers and whatever else, but it's something that can, and I think should, happen right in the midst of all the other stuff we have going on. Can you say a little bit about the kind of the embedded in life qualities of this, of mindfulness generally, but particularly of how you approach it pedagogically in this course?
Yes. And the course that I am certified to teach is a secular curriculum. You know, that's what's a requisite if you teach in a public university. However, now that I'm teaching at the Earth and Spirit Center, it's a little bit more freedom to acknowledge that many people bring a spiritual life to the barn, to the classrooms, and then they're also seeking to deepen, broaden in their participation in a spiritual part of their life, but not requisite. You know, that's the beauty of if we're struggling, and if you're alive, you are. That's just the gig. Nobody should be promising that these practices on a regular basis will give us permanent bliss and permanent understanding and permanent peace with the way things are. In fact, having acceptance of the way things are is one of the biggest barriers to these practices, because the acceptance concept that is ancient is it means I see it the way it is. I don't have to like it. I can be resistance. A form of resistance might be part of my purpose in the clarity. But if that's those are the kinds of real life nitty gritty applications. How do I deal with a life and a world that I do not accept what is going on?
Mm.
And if I struggle with should not be happening, then I'm useless. If I can recognize this is indeed what's happening, what's my role?
Right. I
And
mean, what is that phrase? Like, don't argue with reality because reality will always win. And you'll get pretty bruised up in the process.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this is a course, as I understand it, that will help folks gain both perspective and tools in terms of encountering life as it presents itself and navigating life more skillfully. What if you could just say a few words, like what can folks expect in a course like this, just in terms of what happens week to week, and what sort of folks do you hope would show up for a course like this?
Well, everybody is welcome wherever they are. And if it's just a curiosity state, never done anything like that, come on in,
Mm-hmm.
explore with all your requisite is curiosity. But a lot of people who have had courses in the past, they've had a meditation practice and maybe lost track of it, or it's become so rote and routinized that it feels almost like a form of numbness as opposed to groundedness. All are welcome, because the format is show up with your curiosity, and there's enough direct teaching so that I always include a little bit about what's the neurobiology. Why does it work? Why would we want to do this? What are the specific applications of the forms of practice? We always practice together. We always discuss what people have noticed, voluntarily, of course, but what they might have noticed during practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then people go home and practice on their own for a week with the support of a free app that comes with the course. And we come back and do it again. So there's teaching, underlying support, practice, debriefing, more practice on your own. So
It,
there's a nice flow to it. It's not freewheeling.
There is, and I've taken a version of this course, and what I especially appreciated was that folks really do walk away with, I can't remember exactly how many there are, maybe that number's changed, but uh, some very specific practical skills like certain breathing techniques and body awareness and other things that, is that still how you're structuring it in terms of the method takeaways?
Absolutely, Kyle. And I think one of the things that surprises some people if they have only had one form of practice in their meditation career so far, and they realize there are multitudes of forms of practice. And in fact, in this 5 week course, 11 different forms of practice,
Okay.
and people are exposed to them. We practice them together, experiment with them, and then folks can kind of customize
Yeah.
what are the
Well,
ones that seem they gravitate towards, that seem the most high function for them, and it varies from day to day. What form of practice? There are some days there's no way I'm sitting on that cushion, so I just take a walking meditation, and that's the kind of ownership of a practice that means it's going to be sticky. It's
over
going
the
to
years,
sustain.
I realized, Karen, I have had now probably more conversations than I could easily count with folks who say something like this. I tried mindfulness meditation, i.e., sitting still, and I couldn't do it. I'm just not cut out for it. And many of these folks ultimately found some kind of analogous contemplative practice in, like you said, in walking, and and to my mind, completely legit. There's no particular expectation that mindfulness needs to look a certain way. It can look a lot of different ways for different people and their temperaments, and as you just said, different ways depending on whether it's a Tuesday or a Saturday, or how how you're feeling this particular day or week.
The other thing that happens in a course like mine or the others at Earth and Spirit Center is you have this sense of trust and community. So
Mhm.
if people have questions that have stumped them, this is a really safe place where they can ask those questions. And over again, people kind of admit that they misunderstood that they were supposed to be stopping their thoughts or making their feelings go away. So it is with great reverence and gratitude for these practices, that I can reassure them that these practices do not say your thoughts will stop, but your relationship to them will change significantly. And that's where we get these grounding sense of purpose in the practice.
Well, I have talked to so many people in the past months who are feeling very dislocated and anxious and stressful. I suppose that's everybody, at most times in history, but it certainly feels very present for a lot of folks now. And I think um, the tools you present are just of such deep value at a time like ours, and just detail wise. So the course again is a 5 week course called Mindfulness for Real Life. Karen, you're going to teach it on Tuesday evenings starting on March 18th, 7 to 8:30, or Thursday mornings starting on March 20th. Um, and folks can learn more about that class and you at a link that accompanies this video or on our website, earthandspiritcenter.org. So Karen, again, it is just with pleasure and gratitude that we welcome you back to the classroom. And I know that the folks are just greatly going to benefit from your wisdom. And as you said, the support that you provide and that the community that gathers around this teaching also provides. I'm so glad you pointed that out, because it's one of the beautiful uniquenesses of the Earth and Spirit Center's work. And I think you exemplify it just perfectly as a teacher, that we do build community that is not possible when you're simply learning from an app, simply reading a book, simply even, viewing something online in your jammies. And
Mhm.
I'm just grateful that you are part of this whole community effort that is the Earth and Spirit Center.
Me too. It's one of the best parts of my life.
Bless you. Thank you,
And I
Karen.
would also like to point out, if folks are exploring whether this fits in their calendars, we are skipping classes on spring break week. So we're not arguing with the reality of spring break. So, so the
Okay.
Tuesday, first week in April, we will not meet.
Okay. That sounds great. Well, again, Karen, thank you. And we will see you this spring.
Thanks, Kyle. See y'all.